Hello everyone, it looks it's time to start. This is the past competition element working group meeting, at least the first one of them. So we'll start as usual with the Notewell slides. So this is the first day, so take a time to get familiar with it if you aren't already. There are IPR policies in the IETF. You should know about them, you should follow them, and you should be aware of the rules. So in case you haven't fully read what's pointed out here, please take some time to do so. Next graph. Okay, so we're online, as you know. So in case you're unfamiliar with the Meteco tool, please make sure that when you're on presenting, on talking, everything is muted. The use of a headset is recommended because it's better to get your voice clearly, avoid noises and so on. So especially for the mic, if you want to take the floor. There is the automated blue sheet which is integrated with the medical tool now, so you shouldn't worry about it if you're logged in using your data tracker account. We have a chat available. We can see that Sue and John are already making use of them. Yes, John, the slide scaling is probably related to the fact that we're using the new PDF sharing feature, which probably uses a low resolution. And I think there have been a couple of messages on the list related to that, so probably we can expect a change till next IETF. And Meteco is observing. Okay, so thanks, Meteco. We have Harry taking minutes. There's a CodeMD tool available, so if you want to help him, give some additional info that he may lose, or add anything that seems applicable there, or correct some mistakes, please do so. You're very welcome to give a hand to Harry on the CodeMD page. As usual, since we're online, you're supposed to follow the usual protocol. Start your question or by reminding who you are, so state your name at the beginning. We know that using the data tracker account, we have your name displaying, but for people using the audio, it's also useful to get your name on record. Thanks for that. We'll try to follow the agenda. We have a tight agenda as usual, 2 sessions this time. So the other session is already full as well. So we won't have much spare time in case we can't reach the end of the expected agenda. So please try to include the questions and answers as part of your slot if you are starting the agenda. Next, please. So as usual, we remind you that everything we do at the IETF is supposed to happen using the mailing list. So you don't have to wait for the meeting, whether online or face-to-face, to progress your work. Use the mailing list as much as possible. Much work can be progressed on the mailing list, so don't forget to make use of them anytime along the year. The working group polls are also significant steps in the life of the working group, so please try to be vocal during those polls, whether it be at adoption, last call, reviews, whatever. The group needs people to be a group, so please contribute not only as contributor to your documents, but also as working group members. We have the wiki with the link reminded here. Some useful information there, especially to track a couple of queues that we have in the working group. And also we track on the wiki the early cut port allocation that you may have to consider as soon as you need to progress specification towards an interrupt testing. Early cut point allocation may be useful. So we have a couple of existing ones in the PC working group currently. If you believe that implementation do need some common code points, you may consider this step. It's been working well for a few specifications so far. So please keep in mind that we have this option available. Next, Rod. So the agenda, as you probably know, we have 2 slots in this week. The next one will be on Thursday. The current one will end in less than 1 hour already, so it's quite tight. If you want to bash anything, now's the time. Otherwise, we'll move on. I don't see anyone. So let's start with the working group status. So we've published 3 RSAs since the last IETF related to bidirectional, PC as a central controller, and the association for policies. We have a 4th one within the RC editor queue, which is related to flow spec in Pcep. And there is a dependency to an IDR document, which is specifically related to the layer 2 VPN extension for FlowSpec. IDR is moving for FlowSpec v2 for this part. So one possible option could be to strip this currently existing layer 2 VPN from our Pcep ID, and maybe move with another document later to follow FlowSpec from the IDEA working group. And I see Sue in the queue. So Sue, if you want to say something there, you're very welcome.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. IDR's moved FlowSpec L2 VPN to FlowSpec v2. We will be holding an interim on FlowSpec the 13th of September, at least tentatively. We haven't had our IDR meeting until tomorrow, but we anticipate moving the V2 FlowSpec quickly. However, it probably is 6 months out, even if we move quickly. So you should know that the FlowSpec V2 is simply handling some problems with the TLV, and you'd be wise to pick up L2 VPN from that. That's when we'll do the L2 VPN specification. So 6 to 9 months, your choice. Hopefully that was clear.
Yep, I think that was clear. So we probably need to discuss this.
Your choice of either stripping it, but we will be moving fast on V2. There's a lot of people who want us to move fast now that we've made a decision.
Okay, so that would be great. So we'll decide later on this one, and we'll probably share the options on the mailing list. Thank you, Sue. Last but not least, we sent our first document to John, our new AD. So it's related to the binding label in Pcep. So it's been sent quite recently. So this is with the AG right now. Next row. So within the working group hands, we have a couple of open errata. One is the editorial errata. The other one is related to RFC 8231, related to the order of the objects within the grammar in Pcep extensions. So we've faced this kind of issue between different documents in the past already. So the question is, how will we handle this one? We may consider an update at one moment. That could be a way to address it. So we still need to think about how we'll address this errata. We have a few allocation available, used in use. So those will last till at least 2022. Some documents may be published by then. So we hope that those will be finished before. Next, please. So I think I'm going to leave you the floor, draft, for the working group IDs.
Thanks, Julian.
You're welcome.
So let's start with some of our working group documents which are nearing to the working group last call. We have the stateful GMPLS document. If you would remember, that's actually a merge of two separate IDs, merging stateful and PC initiated for GMPLS. So authors have indicated that they are ready for working group last call. So the chairs will start the process soon. The next document is the enhanced error document. We asked the working group for feedback to check whether there is still interest in this work. We did not receive much of that. Only one author responded. Among the chairs, we discussed what could be the possible next step. We could progress this as an experimental work, or we can wait for implementations and see which interdomain or some other documents start using this enhanced error mechanism and there are actual implementation, then we can make progress. Until that time, we can wait. So we were discussing this among the chairs. If you have any suggestion, you can still reply to the same email thread, but chairs will be making a decision on this soon. For the Yang draft, there has been no update since the last IETF. There are pending comments that needs to be updated. The authors will work on it soon, and then we will do another Yang doctor review, and then mostly working group last call next. All the other dependencies that this document have are also progressing well. So I think we are on good track with having our Yang model published pretty soon. The other IDs, native IP is on the agenda, but the part that we wanted to highlight was that we requested feedback from the IDR working group. Just now, Sue mentioned on the chat that she would be sending a feedback onto the list. So if it's important that we get that feedback early on before we do working group last call processing. Anyway, this document is on the agenda, so if there is any comments related to that, we can discuss it in the agenda time. We have a document on FlexGrid. This has not been updated in a while. There's not many changes, so we wanted to get a confirmation from authors that whether all work is done or are they waiting for some other event to happen. If it's done, you can let the chairs know that it's ready for working group last call. Hao-Myeon, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking from the perspective of the FlexGrid, yes, I think it's mainly stable. So we may move forward, or we need more comments to move forward.
Thank you. Moving ahead, we have SRv6. Recently, management reconsideration and implementation status has been added. Otherwise, the documents looks pretty stable. So hopefully, SRv6 would also be ready soon. We have another association called VN Association. This is related to ACTN. This looks like ready as well because it's been stable for a while. We'll check with the authors on what they feel about progressing VN Association. Yeah, Hao Mian again, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry for not updating the status. This one would be quite stable as well, but I'm not sure whether there is any dependency on the ACTN and draft from KISS working group. So if yes, we will wait for a while until the ACTN is stable.
As far as I remember, I don't think there was a normative reference to
No.
the Yang work or any other work which is pending in peace. So I think we can progress it.
Okay. Noted.
Then we have path segment. There has been no update. Path segment work is progressing in spring as well. So I think once the spring works happen, the PC can take the lead from there. Bidirectional SR path, there has been an update. The update was mainly to sync with the published RFC. And this document also is nearing working group last call. And we have got the confirmation from the authors that maybe by the next IETF we'll be there. Some of the newer documents are we have our SR policy candidate path document. There has been an update. There was a request for early allocation, which was done, and there was discussion on the list. We have one pending item. When we were moving the binding SID, there were comments to remove two of the flags which were related to SR policy from binding SID, and our plan was to add it into the SR policy document. So this we need to track and make sure that we do not lose this thing while we are moving the other documents. So that's why I put the pending item. So request the authors to take care of this one. And if there is any issues, please let's discuss it on the mailing list. We have local protection. There has been no update since the last IETF. The other newer documents are PCCCSR. There has been an update. The update was to align with the PCCC based RFC recently published, RFC 9050. Stateful interdomain was also updated. This was a significant update based on the comments that were received during the adoption time, and they are now reusing the binding TLV. So that was one of the pending items which has been done. Request the working group to look at the document and please provide their feedback as this has had significant change since the adoption. Then we have extended flags. Again, no update. In fact, there are some comments which are pending from the adoption call itself. So request authors to pay attention and put a 01 out, and let's handle those comments. Okay, so last two are our very recent working group IDs. They have been recently adopted in last couple of months. So we are still yet to see an update on these. And finally, this is our working group adoption poll queue. You can always refer to the wiki to see where we are. There is still some backlog, but your chairs are working and trying to clear them as soon as we can. So please help us, give us feedback when we request on the working group mailing list, so that we can all move all your documents, all our documents together. And with that, I'm done. Let's start with our first presentation, unless somebody has any other comments on the working group document status. Okay, seeing no one coming in. Aijun, off to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Here I want to introduce the update for the Pcep extension for native IP network. So next please. The motivation is we introduce update for the Pcep extension for native IP network and get feedback from the for the overall updated solution. We think after the updation, this document is ready for the working group last call. Next slide. Yeah, here I want to introduce the shortly the overview of the solution. So we can see from the graph that the main procedure for the solution is um, uh, uh, divided into 3 steps. The first is the building dual or multi-BGP system between edge router upon the request via the Pcep. The second is advertise uh, different prefix via different BGP system with a Pcep-based setup. The third is steer traffic towards the particular route via the BGP next-hop with a Pcep-based setup. After these 3 steps, we can assure the traffic priority traffic go along with the opposite path from end to end. The detailed explanation can be referred for the last presentation in last IETF meeting. So next please. The main update for the current version is illustrated in this graph. The left graph, we can see left graph is mm, forwarding path based on the previous solution. The traffic is forwarded based on the destination address. So in some situation, for example, if we want to assort traffic from R1 to R7, but if the same traffic to the prefix on R7 come from the R2, when the traffic came to the router R5, then the traffic will be forwarded along the priority path. So overall, the traffic control is not very strict. So that is some unwanted traffic may pass the priority path. So if we want to want to control the forwarding path strictly, we can tunnel the traffic between the source and the destination. So in the updated solution, we give another solution for forwarding the traffic based on the tunnel. So the traffic for different tube, that is from different source or destination pair, will be put into the different tunnels. So if the traffic come from another router, for example, in the R2 router, and be forwarded to the R5, this traffic will not be forwarded along the priority path because they will be forwarded based on their native IP destination prefix. Based on the updated solution, we can achieve the strict traffic path control. So next, please. To achieve the strict path control, we under another flag, that is the T, in the BGP peer info object. So if this flag is set, then the town source and town destination IP address will be included in the BPI information object. If this flag bit is clear, then the two field will not present. So it is the same for the IPv6 and IPv4. So next slide, please. We also update the explicitly peer root object. If the BPI, if the T flag in BPI object is set, then the next hop address will be indicated. Will indicate the tunnel address. So from the point of view of the PCC, there is no difference between the two addresses. The action is based on the object. Yeah, okay. Next slide. Okay, this is the overall update, our introduction of the update content. So, is any comment?
Hi, Mike. Go ahead.
I just had a couple of questions. First question is it true, is it correct that a route injected via this PPA route is going to be flooded into every single node in the domain, even if that node doesn't have any practical chance of carrying that traffic?
You said the Pcep, the BPI object, or will be,
yeah, like PPA object, right? They're injected into the tail end, and then they're sent to the RR via the BGP, right? So am I understanding it correct that every prefix is going to be flooded via BGP route reflector to every single node in the domain?
sorry, there is a.
So if you have a million, say you have a million prefixes, right? And is it true that every single node in your domain is going to have a million BGP routes?
For a node along the end-to-end path, there will be they must know the EPR object.
Yeah, EPR, but I'm talking about the prefixes. So the PPA, peer prefix advertisement. Those are injected at the tail end and at the head end, right? And then the tail end would send that prefix route into the route reflector, and I think the route reflector would spread it out to every single node. Is that correct or no?
Sorry.
Mike, as far as I understand, that's not what's happening here.
Sorry.
But I would like Arjun to confirm. From my understanding, I don't think so. There are flooding information everywhere. This is basically only using Pcep to program what's needed on those individual nodes. So there is no flooding involved here. That's my understanding.
But then how do the midpoint nodes
There is a
know the
Pcep
prefix?
message going. There is a Pcep message going there as well. The red Pcep message.
Yeah, but that Pcep message carries the EPR object, which just gives you the route to the BGP loopback, not to the prefix. Okay, maybe I don't know if I can take that to the list then.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I think that would be better. It would be good to get this clarified.
Sure, I have another question. Is it?
Yeah,
can I
go
ask
ahead.
another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How would you support equal cost multipath or weighted multipath if you want to take, for example, not just a single link, but you want to take, you want to spread your traffic among multiple paths.
Arjun, are you there?
Yeah. So
Did you get Mike's question?
oh, so
I think we are losing him. So Mike, why don't you take both these questions to the list, and we'll make sure Arjun answers them. Thank you for your
Sure,
question.
no worries. Thanks.
Sue, go ahead.
Okay, June, if you hear this, one of the problems that I was going to send to the spec may help Mike's previous comment. So let me ask it as a question. Are R1 and R3, which you describe as receiving BGP routes from R3, which is a route reflector, are they route reflector clients? It is unclear from your draft. Not hearing me?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Arjun, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. R3 is the route reflector. For
Okay,
the
so
BGP set. Yeah.
okay, the diagram in front of us is not the diagram that, yes, on the right-hand side, that's the diagram that matters, where R3 is a route reflector. What type of BGP peer is R1 and R7? Are they route reflector clients or are they route reflectors themselves? You don't clearly state that in the document. That may help the previous discussion.
Mhm.
Am I unclear, Arjun?
Yeah, would you like to repeat the question?
I will repeat the
disconnected.
question. You have
Yeah,
R3 as a route reflector on the right-hand side.
yeah,
That picture is in your document. Is
yeah.
R1, which is BGP peering with the route reflector, a route reflector client? The same question applies to R7. Are they both route reflector clients?
Sorry. So I think I can get you a question. In the right graph, the R1 router will build a BGP system with RR, that is R3, and the R7 also will build the BGP system with R3.
Are they route reflector clients or are they another route reflector?
Yeah, RR1 and 7 is the BGP client.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What are they, reflector clients or are they route reflectors?
I think Arjun said clients. That's what
Clients.
I heard.
Okay, that's good. Then are R5 and R6 simply forwarding routers?
Arjun, are you there? I think we are not having a constructive discussion. Let's
We
take
are
this to
not
the list.
having it. I will send
Yeah,
it to the mail list. And
yeah.
if this is true, Mike, then the previous speaker, then it is the stuff that comes from the route reflector goes to R1 and R7 as clients. There is, if that's all the farther it goes,
Yeah.
if it sends routes to R1 and R7, then the routes are there then you have to know what R5 and R6 are. They can't be BGP peers that the route reflector client sends things to, and if it's using classic route reflection. So that's an unclear portion in the draft. I will send this to the mail list, and we need to have a discussion because I think that will help you, Mike, because the policy will determine what sends things to R1 and R7 as part of a client. Okay.
Yeah, that
so you
makes
won't
sense.
get everything. Thank you.
Thank you. So thanks, Arjun. Please do answer the questions from Mike and Sue on the mailing list. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hello everybody. This is an update about the Pcep extensions to enable IFIT. So next slide. Just a few words about the background and motivation. IFIT refers to data plane on path telemetry techniques, including in situ AM and alternate marking, and you can see the relevant documents. The scope of this draft is to define the Pcep extensions to allow to signal the IFIT capabilities in order to make them automatically activated and running. How we can do that? So we generalize this through the application as TLVs carried inside the LSPA object, and this can be applied to all path types, as long as, of course, as long as they support the relevant data plane telemetry method. Next slide. In this slide, we just summarize the changes from the 0.2 version. 0.3 was just a change about the co-authorship of the document, so we just had two versions. So the main changes are we specified the usage scenario of IFIT. In particular, we highlighted that according to RFC 8799, all the IFIT methodologies need to be applied in specific network domains, so-called controlled domains. So we clarified these usage scenarios, as also mentioned in RFC 8799 and also in the relevant in situ AM and alternate marking documents. According to this, we also improved the security consideration sections. So we highlighted that the IFIT data must be propagated in limited domains to avoid malicious attacks. And these solutions to ensure this requirement are also discussed in the in situ AM draft and alternate marking draft. That is in last call. Next slide. This slide we highlight the main the IFIT advertisement capability advertisement TLB. So we basically introduce 5 bits in flags field. 4 are dedicated to in situ AM and 1 bit is dedicated to alternate marking. The flags must be set to 1 by both PCC and PCE in order to support the instantiation of the methodology. Next slide. In addition to the capability advertisement, we of course also define the IFIT attributes TLV that provides the configurable knobs of the IFIT features. You can see the structure of the type length value and the sub-TLVs that can be defined and are defined in the next slide. Please go ahead. These are the 4 IOM sub-TLVs for the 4 types. Type 1 related to IOM pre-allocated trace option, sub-TLB. The type 2 related to IOM incremental trace option. Type 3 related to IOM directly export option. And type 4 related to IOM edge-to-edge option. Next slide. Yeah, this is just the last type 5 related to alternate marking, sub-TLV. We also added 2 flags indicated that the measurement can be hop by hop or end-to-end. Next. Okay, yeah, this is the last slide. Since, as I said, this draft is general for all the path types. In any case, since IFIT methods are becoming mature for SRMPLS and SRv6, the TLVs here defined also complement the IETF PCE segment routing policy CP draft in order to enable SR policy with native IFIT, but this can be true also for all path types as long as they support the IFIT methodologies. For example, also IPv6 can be supported here. So we, of course, welcome questions, comments, and we ask to evaluate the working group adoption. Thank you.
Julian, you have a question?
No, but fair to hear you when you ask about questions.
Okay. Giuseppe, there was one comment from the last meeting regarding some of the flags and whether we need to create a registry or not. I think that we never discussed further. Whether, the plan was whether we just need to define the flags and no registry. Because I remember this similar discussion was happening in LSR working group as well about when we create flags, do we also immediately create a registry so that any future document can update it without having to just update the registry without having to update the document and change the metadata as well. And in PCE working group and Pcep protocol, usually we have always for all our flags created the registry. So is there any specific reason for IOM and this document that we don't want to? So I think if there is, we need to discuss this on the list.
Okay, I think that we can be aligned with, let's say, how in PC you manage this kind of registry. So we can update the draft accordingly. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay, then let's move ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Juan from GT. My presentation today is the LUT constraints for Pcep. Next, please. As the figure shows, the attributes with the lateral topology are advertised among the domain by IGP, such as EASIS or OCPF, and then reported to the controller, for example, the PC. So the PC will perform path computation based on the information collected through BGPLS. And as divided in RFC 4655, the PC can compute the T path based on the constraints such as metric, bandwidth, delay, and availability. And so this document proposes a set of new constraints for Pcep with the lateral topology information, which have been defined in IGP, BGPLS, or other related working group drafts. So first one is the source protocol ID, which identifies the IGP instance. and it is defined in released version of ECS, OSPF, and the BHPLS. Second is the topology ID, which can identify the virtual network. It also has been defined. And the last one is the application ID, which identify a sub network with a specific application. It is defined in RFC 8919. The next one is the SNICE ID, which identifies the SNICE network. We also propose the kernel to define the kernel template defined in RFC 9012. Finally, we define the FA ID for the flash argo function. So we will introduce the TRV for details in the following slides. Last slide, please. The first one is the source protocol ID. As the figure shown, we define a source protocol TLV to carry the source protocol constraint. ACEs and the OSPF may run multiple routing protocol instances over the same link, so the PC may compute the T parse within one of the instances, such as ACEs level 1, level 2, and OSPF version 2, version 3, and so on. Last please. The second one is the multi-topology ID. We carry the multi-topology ID in multi-topology TRV. The PCE may compute the T path within one of the sub-topology, which identified by a multi-topology ID. So we define a multi-topology TLV to carry the constraint for the virtual network. Next, please. The third one is the application ID. The easiest link attribute application identifiers has been defined in RFC 8919. The sub-topology provides the application-specific information. We define our application TLV to carry the constraint. Next, please. The sub-topology may also be identified by the specific slice ID in slice network. It is discussed in the draft IETF network slice definition. This document defines a slice TLV to carry the slice ID constraint for the virtual network. Last, please. So the fifth one is the sub-topology may also be identified by the specific color template, which carried specific color parameter, and it is suitable for LNT instance such as RSVP, SRT, and SR policy. It is defined in as defined in RFC 9012. The color TLV can be carried to identify the color template, which is the color extended community defined in RFC 9012. Next. The final one, the last one is the FAID. We define the FAID to carry the flash argo constraints. So this is all the new T constraints we proposed. Next, please. We welcome comments and discussion. Thank you.
Andrew?
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. I just had a general question about, or comment, I guess, about the color extension. There's a draft after this document actually that discusses color for attaching it to RSVP LSBs. in that context, it's about steering, whereas this one's in the context of constraint requirements, if I understand correctly. Part of me wonders, is that a little bit of an overlap with association policy? So if a color is encoded to carry some kind of traffic engineering requirements or goals, which the controller is aware of, and not used for explicit steering or binding, like the other draft that's actually being discussed after this, is there not a collision there between association policy and this color TLV?
Yes, I have reviewed the draft you mentioned, and I think it's a useful use case. So I think we define the color TLV, and it can be used in many scenarios. So I think it's referred to the chair, the PCE chair. I think if we can cooperate or co-author a new draft or other solution to I think the color TLV is we can only define the one color TLV, and it can be carried in many objects.
I guess I haven't thought too much about whether or not it would make sense to carry it as one, because it seems like there's two separate purposes. One is to carry traffic engineering requirements, like a path calculation demand, whereas the other one was for color steering. So yeah, I mean, if we can merge them into one kind of TLV, that'd be great. But I guess I just see the purpose of this being different than the other one, and the purpose as an overlap with association policy, in my opinion, loosely.
And yeah, and Andrew, just to add that the association policy is already an RFC, so it's already a published work where this color template work could be done with just creating a policy ID. So we need to have a stronger justification for why we need something new than something which already is standardized.
Yeah, because this reminds me a little bit of the draft path profile, right, where you just have an ID that associates back to profile, and association policy really kind of supersedes that. And this kind of just slips in another mechanism to achieve something very similar, which again, the idea of a color I totally get from a binding and a steering point of view. From a calculation requirement, it's not quite clear to me yet. Right, thank you.
G, you're next.
Hello?
Jimmy, go ahead.
Okay. My first comment is about the scope of this document. Is this document about generic constraint extensions for PCE, or is it is specific to network slicing? Because I see some text about network slicing used in the draft. Well, you also define some other constraints extensions.
Yeah, we mainly define the TE constraints for Pcep, not only in slice networking.
So it's generic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so perhaps the text could be cleaned up to make it like a generic document. Another comment is about the slicing TLV. Actually, I think there's currently no slice ID defined in the TIS, not a slice definition draft, and there's still ongoing discussion about the terminology and also the concept about the slice ID. Maybe we will have another term for it. So maybe just need to align with the progress in the TIS working group.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think the SNAS ID, the format of the SNAS ID is not confirmed in TIS. So, do you have suggestion for the format of the SNAS ID TLV?
Actually, not only the format, but also the terminology. So if you think it's a generic document, I would suggest maybe to remove this TLV at this moment.
Yeah, we are over time as well. So I think everyone, let's just keep your questions very short. So Tarek, next, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My comment is that there are cases where a path is crossing multiple topologies, and the constraint is a union of, like the IGP topology ID that you're proposing. It can be union, it can be intersection, it can be more elaborate than just one instance of a source protocol topology ID, and so on. Coincidentally, we have published a draft in TEAS, me and Pavan, talking about topology filters. It has what you have there with more elaborate union intersection cases. So that's not, I'll provide a link in case you're interested in that. That's number. It was a comment. The second, I have a question on the Flex Algo ID on next to the last slide. I don't have the numbers of the slides, so yeah, this one. It's not enough to have the ID of the Flex Algo to identify what Flex Algo you're talking about, because the multiple IGP domains or IGPs can have the same number to mean different definitions. So I think this is we need more information in there to identify what Flex Algo, and I'm willing to work offline with you on that if you're interested.
Mike, go ahead. Last question, and then we need to really move on.
Just a quick comment that like the color TLV is, I think is very useful. And there's another color TLV that's defined in another draft. So we may want to merge it somehow.
Yeah.
Or,
okay. So let's move to that. And if there is any questions, we can take after this. So I think Pavan, you are presenting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I would be talking about carrying RSVP color again in Pcep. The color that I would be talking about here is an RSVP LSP attribute that can be used as a criteria for selecting the LSP as a next stop for a service route for service mapping purposes. This is similar to the notion of how color is used in SR policies. The motivation is fairly straightforward. This extension is needed for the same reasons why color is useful for SR policies. For SR policies, it's currently sitting under the SR PAG, SR Policy Association Group. Yeah, I mean, ideally we would have had a common TLV for both, but yeah, given that current extension is very SR specific, we need something else. The IDR document referenced here discusses in detail how color markings can be carried across domain boundaries, and the proposal discussed in this slides can coexist with that. So irrespective of what mechanism is used to carry the color across the domain boundaries, we do need a way to specify the color associated with an RSVP LSP in Pcep, and that's what this document focuses on. Next slide. All that this illustration is trying to convey is that if you have two types of services, a gold service and a silver service, and you need them to be steered separately over, say, a gold transport tunnel or a silver transport tunnel, you need a way to provide that marking on the tunnel. And the mechanism, as I said, is oblivious to what happens on the service layer. Next slide. The color TLV that's being proposed is carried in the LSP object. It's carried in both directions, server to the client to the server. To avoid unnecessary complications, we are saying that the color is a property of the tunnel and not the LSP. You could simply carry it in the carried only for the primary LSP and not for anything else. We did think about adding a new association for this, but seemed like an overkill. But yeah, we are open to suggestions. Next slide. There is a capability bit that's being introduced. If the client can support colors, but the server cannot, it's not a big deal since service mapping typically happens on the client side. If the server supports the color but client doesn't, service mapping cannot happen, and that's where this capability really becomes useful. Next slide. this just talks about how the Pcep extension works in conjunction with the BGP-CT work. In BGP-CT, prefixes select resolution schemes. In other words, they don't directly select the underlay color. So there's a level of indirection there. Resolution scheme in turn is associated with an ordered set of colors, and that's where this draft fits in. The color is mapped to a specific transport tunnel. That's all I have in this deck. It's a new draft. We believe it's necessary to have this defined in the Pcep toolkit. We believe it's necessary. I mean, it would be useful to have like one document that talks about the steering construct. I still have reservations about using color as a constraint, but yeah, I mean, that's I'm not gonna go there in this deck, in this presentation. Questions, comments, if you have time.
Very quick comments, and then we'll close.
If you don't mind. You mentioned classful transport as one of the applications. I think you could also mention BGP color aware routing, which
Sure,
is a
yeah.
similar,
This is just a, yeah, agree. Yeah, it's like I
Yep.
said, it's oblivious to what is used in the service layer. Yeah, we just need something in Pcep to carry this. That's all this draft is
Okay.
trying to say.
Thanks.
Andrew? Andrew, go ahead. Maybe Sue, you can go ahead while we wait for Andrew.
Is this taking a auto configuration function for some things by using it in Pcep?
Right. Yeah. If you have, say, if you do want to have like a on-demand next stop kind of application, and you want to do automatic steering based on
Yes.
the extended color community, then yeah, we do need something in the Pcep message that's going down to say that this tunnel has this color associated with it.
Okay.
We have
That
it with
might
SR. We're
be,
just doing it with RSVP.
yes. Just might include that as you do further revisions of this initial draft. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We could not do one presentation, VLAN-based native IP. We'll do it in the next session. We have 5 minutes in the next session. So, yeah, Andrew,
sorry,
go
can
ahead.
I just start a quick one? Yeah, sorry, guys. I had to change my headset. I was just curious about there was a paragraph that commented if there was LSP paths with primary and secondary, it should choose one as deemed as the primary, and if you try to program essentially the secondary, it should fail. Essentially, something like that. Is that intended to say it should only try to update the active, or are you intending not to use the color against the secondary as well?
I mean, you need it for, I mean, basically it needs to be a tunnel attribute. Yeah, if, I mean, we don't have scenarios, at least as far as I know, where you only have a secondary but not the primary. So as long as that's true, as long as there is at least one primary and you carry the color with that primary, I think you get the behavior as needed.
I guess
right?
the reason why I'm asking is I'm digging in my memory bank here. In Pcep, we don't actually know primary secondary per se, but there is the association protection document.
I thought there was some. I mean, if you are reusing the same extension, RSVP extensions or similar extensions RSVP, you can tell whether something based on the association. You can say whether this is a primary or a secondary.
Okay,
Maybe that's not the case in Pcep, but yeah.
Yeah, we might have to follow up on that because we know which is active, but I don't think there was a bit that actually said this one's primary, this one is secondary.
Okay, I'll take a look, but the basic idea is that this is a tunnel attribute, and we don't want to signal it for every LSP that's there.
Makes sense.
Association is an option, but yeah, that's something that can be discussed.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. So the VLAN one, we'll do it on our next session. See you on Thursday. Enjoy your rest of the day/night. Take care. Bye. Julian, any last word?
No, you said everything. So talk to you on Thursday and enjoy the last day/night.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.